Most people spend their lives trying to be liked, but a rare few carry something far more powerful. A presence that demands respect the moment they enter a room. They don't raise their voice. They don't beg for attention. Yet, everyone feels them. These people possess what Machiavelli called the silent power, the ability to intimidate without ever lifting a finger. Today, we're uncovering the 7 signs that you might be one of them. These traits are not loud, not obvious, and not chosen. They are forged through experience, resilience, and an unshakable mind. If you recognize yourself in these signs, you are far more dangerous than you realize. A truly dangerous and intimidating personality rarely announces itself. It doesn't need to. Power, when it is genuine, radiates long before a single word is spoken. This is what Machiavelli meant when he suggested that influence is most effective when it's silent. People who possess this kind of presence don't rely on volume, threats, or theatrics. Their aura alone shifts the atmosphere. Others feel a weight in the room, an invisible force that subtly changes how they stand, how they speak, even how they think. It isn't fear created through aggression. It's fear born from uncertainty. People sense something controlled, collected, and unreadable in you, and that unsettles them in ways they cannot fully explain. Your silence becomes its own form of communication. Most people expose themselves through their words, their insecurities, their desires, their intentions. But when you speak only when necessary, you remove those openings. Machiavelli believed that the one who reveals the least holds the greatest advantage, because others must guess, assume, and interpret. When people don't know what you're thinking, they fill in the gaps with their fears, and those imagined fears often become larger than reality. This makes your presence feel heavier, sharper, more potent. You are not intimidating because you try to be. You are intimidating because the absence of noise forces others to confront themselves. There is a calmness in this kind of personality that amplifies its power. When someone remains still, composed, and unaffected in situations where others panic or overreact, it creates a psychological hierarchy. People instinctively look toward the person who remains stable under pressure. They may not like you, but they respect you. They may not understand you, but they recognize your strength. Machiavelli wrote that leaders must appear unwavering, even when the world shakes around them. Those who carry a naturally intimidating presence embody this principle without effort. Their stillness becomes a statement. Nothing can disturb them. What makes this trait even more dangerous is that it cannot be faked. Fake confidence cracks quickly. Fake toughness relies on loudness. But someone who genuinely holds power within themselves doesn't need approval or validation. Their confidence comes from experience, self-awareness, and a deep understanding of human nature. They know who they are, what they can handle, and where their boundaries lie. This makes them unpredictable, not in the sense of being chaotic, but in the sense that no one can control or sway them. When a person cannot be manipulated emotionally, socially, or mentally, others instinctively step back. This kind of personality often intimidates without trying because it breaks the usual patterns most people are used to. In a world full of oversharing, you value privacy. In a world full of impulsiveness, you observe. In a world full of people who seek validation, you remain detached. Your power lies not in dominating conversations, but in dominating the psychological space around you. People don't understand you, and what they don't understand, they fear. Yet they also gravitate toward it, because strength, real strength, is rare. Machiavelli would argue that the most powerful individuals are those whose presence alone alters behavior, and that is exactly what happens around you. People lower their voices, watch their words, and monitor their actions. They sense that you are someone who cannot be fooled, someone who cannot be underestimated, someone who carries themselves as if they already know how every situation will unfold. This is why your power is felt before it's ever seen. It signals itself quietly, naturally, and irresistibly, creating an influence that others feel long before they understand why. The second keynote captures a trait that is far rarer and far more powerful than people realize. The ability to stay unreadable while reading everyone else with absolute clarity. Machiavelli believed that the greatest advantage in any social or political environment comes from understanding others while preventing them from understanding you. This imbalance creates quiet dominance. When you reveal nothing yet notice everything, You become the unpredictable factor in every interaction. People cannot prepare for you, cannot anticipate your moves, and cannot manipulate you because they never know what you truly think, feel, or plan. Most people speak without thinking. They expose their insecurities, desires, weaknesses, and intentions. Through casual conversation, emotional reactions, and impulsive behavior. You, on the other hand, do the opposite. You observe first. You listen more than you speak. You study the environment, the people, their moods, their patterns, and their contradictions. This makes you dangerous because while everyone else plays openly, you play silently. Machiavelli wrote that the wise must always watch the foolish because the foolish reveal everything. You understand this. Instinctively, you know that people tell on themselves without realizing it. A shift in tone, a flash of insecurity in the eyes, unnecessary explanations. These small details reveal far more than words ever could. Your silence forces others to keep talking. Humans dislike uncertainty, and when someone is hard to read, they try to fill the quiet with more information. They give away their motives, hoping you'll give away yours. But you don't. You remain calm, composed, and controlled. They walk away thinking they learned something about you, not realizing that you learned far more about them. Machiavelli would call this the art of strategic concealment, a form of power that gives you insight without exposing your hand. This trait becomes even more intimidating because it makes people feel vulnerable in your presence. They sense that you see through them, that you notice things they thought they hid well. You catch their micro-reactions, their hidden anxieties, their subtle shifts in behavior. People feel read by you, and being read makes them uncomfortable because it removes their sense of control. Humans prefer to believe they can mask their flaws, but when someone looks at them with a certain calm awareness, it strips away that illusion. They become self-conscious, careful, and even defensive around you, often without understanding why. Meanwhile, your ability to hide your own intentions protects you from manipulation. Machiavelli understood that people cannot attack what they cannot define. If they don't know whether you're a friend or a threat, whether you agree or disagree, whether you're emotional or neutral, they become uncertain. Uncertainty creates hesitation. Hesitation creates opportunity. You control interactions, not through force or dominance, but through strategic ambiguity. Your mystery becomes your shield and weapon at the same time. Another reason this trait is so powerful is that it keeps you emotionally detached. You don't react impulsively. You don't show anger just because someone tries to provoke you. You don't reveal excitement when someone tries to bait you. You remain steady. This emotional control makes you unreadable, and unreadability is deeply intimidating. It makes people wonder what else you know, what else you see, and what you're not saying. Those who reveal nothing are underestimated at first until people realize too late that you have been observing everything. The moment others understand that you noticed patterns they ignored, motives they hid, and weaknesses they denied, their entire perception of you changes. They begin treating you with caution, respect, even fear. Because now they understand what Machiavelli preached. The person who sees more and speaks less holds the real power. The third keynote describes one of the most unmistakable signs of an intimidating and dangerous personality. People instinctively adjust themselves when you enter the room. This reaction is not created through force, loudness, or authority you demand. It happens naturally, often without anyone noticing it. Machiavelli believed that true power is measured not by what a person declares, but by how others alter their behavior in their presence. When your presence alone shifts the atmosphere, it reveals a level of influence that cannot be faked or taught. It is a psychological dominance that arises from how you carry yourself, how you observe, and how deeply grounded you are in your identity. People lower their voices around you, not because you ask them to, but because they sense an energy that demands composure. They watch their words more carefully, not out of fear of punishment, but because your expression offers no clues about what you tolerate or what you despise. They stand straighter, become more aware of their flaws, and suddenly try to appear more confident or smarter than they usually do. This transformation is automatic. Humans instinctively mirror the energy of the strongest presence in a room, and when that presence is yours, You set an invisible tone that everyone else follows. What makes this behavior so striking is that you rarely do anything to initiate it. You don't force respect. It forms around you. People are subconsciously aware when someone carries internal certainty, the kind that doesn't need validation or applause. Machiavelli taught that an individual who knows their own strength does not need to speak of it. Those who carry genuine power radiate it through their stillness, their control, and their unshakable confidence. And when others sense this, they adjust because they don't want to appear weak or foolish in front of someone they cannot easily read or influence. Your presence has gravity. People feel watched, even when you say nothing. They feel judged, even when you haven't hooted them. They feel exposed, even when you haven't asked a single question. This is because they instinctively know they cannot manipulate you the way they manipulate others. They sense that you are not impressed by superficial charm, exaggerated stories, or loud person. They understand that you see through insecurity and weakness with a clarity that makes them uncomfortable. And so, without meaning to, they modify their behavior to appear more stable, more controlled, or more respectable in your eyes. This automatic shift in people reveals how much psychological territory you occupy. It shows that your presence is not just physical. It is mental and emotional. You don't need to command the room. The room reorganizes itself around you. Machiavelli would call this the highest form of leadership. Influence without exertion. Authority without effort. When others adjust themselves before you be ebb and spoken, it means your energy disrupts their usual patterns. They don't know whether to impress you, avoid you, or challenge you, and that uncertainty forces them into caution. What intensifies this effect is your emotional steadiness. You do not chase approval. You do not react impulsively, and you do not shrink yourself to make others comfortable. This creates a sense of unpredictability that heightens your intimidating presence. People cannot match your calmness, and they cannot mirror your self-control. So they attempt to adjust their own behavior in hopes of aligning with your level. Even those who dislike you feel the need to behave differently around you, because they cannot afford to appear foolish in front of someone whose judgment they silently fear. When your presence reshapes the atmosphere, it is proof that you operate on a different psychological level. Others feel it even before they understand it, and that is exactly what makes you dangerous. Not because you seek to dominate, but because your mere existence forces others to reveal who they really are. A person with a dangerous and intimidating personality is not someone who goes around picking unnecessary fights. In fact, they often avoid conflict altogether because they understand that real strength does not need to be displayed at every moment. But when conflict becomes unavoidable, when someone crosses a line or tries to manipulate, disrespect, or threaten them, everything changes. They don't explode. They don't panic. They don't shout or lose control. Instead, they become calmer, sharper, and more focused. This is what makes them so dangerous. They don't fear conflict. They control it. Machiavelli believed that true power lies in the ability to remain composed while others lose themselves, because that is when decisions become strategic rather than emotional. Most people approach conflict emotionally. They react based on impulse, ego, or insecurity. They want to win the argument, prove a point, or show dominance. But a truly intimidating individual doesn't seek any of that. Their objective is clarity, stability, and resolution, but on their terms. They understand that emotional reactions expose weaknesses. Anger reveals what bothers you. Defensiveness reveals insecurity. Panic reveals fear. So while others try to provoke a reaction, they simply absorb the situation with a cold, analytical mind. This absence of emotional chaos unsettles people, because they expect drama and volatility. When they don't get it, they realize they're dealing with someone they cannot push, manipulate, or overpower. This calmness in conflict creates a psychological advantage. While others escalate a situation, this person de-escalates it by staying grounded. They know when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to strike with precision. They are not afraid to make difficult decisions, set firm boundaries, or walk away from people who bring toxicity. Their silence in conflict often carries more weight than another person's loudest threats. Machiavelli suggested that the most effective power is subtle. It influences outcomes without drawing attention to the methods used. This is why such individuals end conflicts decisively. They don't prolong them. They don't argue endlessly. They identify the root of the problem and cut straight through it. What makes this even more intimidating is that they never fight for show. They fight only when necessary. When they stand their ground, people instantly sense the seriousness behind it. There is no bluff, no exaggeration, no bravado. Their boundaries are real, and they enforce them without hesitation. This consistency builds a reputation. Do not cross this person. They become someone others think twice before provoking, and once a reputation for strength is established, conflicts decrease naturally. People respect what they fear losing control over. There is also a strategic intelligence in the way they handle confrontation. They understand the psychology behind human behavior. They can read when someone is acting out of insecurity, projecting their own issues, or attempting manipulation. Instead of reacting emotionally, they respond with logic and clarity. This often leaves the other person exposed, realizing that their tactics are ineffective. When an insecure or aggressive person sees that their attempts to trigger you fail, they feel powerless. This shift in power dynamic is subtle but profound. The one who remains calm becomes the dominant force in the exchange. The most dangerous thing about this kind of personality is their ability to end conflict without appearing aggressive. They choose their words with precision. They maintain their posture. They refuse to lower themselves to petty behavior, and if the situation demands it, they end the interaction entirely with a final, decisive action, walking away, cutting off communication, or making a firm choice that leaves no room for negotiation. Machiavelli argued that strength must be demonstrated clearly enough that others understand its existence, but it should never be used excessively. That balance defines true intimidation. Because of this, people instinctively avoid creating conflict with you. They know that if it comes down to a confrontation, you won't be the one who panics or loses control. You will be the one who decides how it ends. And that makes you someone they cannot take lightly. Someone whose presence alone shifts the entire dynamic of a dispute. The fifth keynote reflects one of the most quietly intimidating traits a person can possess: the ability to see through weakness instantly. Most people try to hide their insecurities, doubts, and fears behind confidence, humor, or distraction. But someone with a dangerous and perceptive personality does not get fooled by these masks. They observe closely, with a calm and analytical mind, and they see the truths people try hardest to hide. This ability is unsettling because it creates an invisible imbalance. Others feel exposed in your presence, as if their inner struggles and hidden motivations are laid out clearly before you. Machiavelli believed that understanding human weakness was one of the greatest sources of power, because once you know what drives someone, you can predict their decisions, anticipate their reactions, and protect yourself from their manipulations. You can read insecurity in small moments: the hesitation before a sentence, the forced smile, the nervous laugh, the unnecessary bragging, the subtle need for validation. These details may appear insignificant to most people, but you notice them instinctively. You see patterns in behavior. You understand emotional cues. You recognize that someone who talks too much is often hiding fear, that someone who tries too hard to look confident is often fragile inside, and that someone who avoids eye contact is often burdened with guilt or anxiety. This insight is not judgment, it is awareness, and awareness is power. Your ability to see weakness does not come from a place of cruelty. It comes from experience, from observing people over time, from understanding how they behave under pressure, and from learning how human nature reveals itself in subtle ways. Machiavelli wrote that to truly understand people, you must watch what they do, not what they say. You live by this principle without even trying. Words can be deceptive, but body language, patterns, and emotional responses rarely lie. So while others get fooled by charm, flattery, or theatrics, you look deeper. You notice who is insecure, who is hungry for approval, who is secretly envious, and who is pretending to be something they're not. This insight makes people uncomfortable around you because it removes the safety of illusion. Most individuals rely on others not noticing their flaws. They want to appear stronger, smarter, or more confident than they truly are. But when they realize that you can see through their facade, they feel exposed and vulnerable. Some may become defensive. Others may become submissive, and some simply avoid getting too close because your perception makes them feel like their inner world is under scrutiny. What makes this trait truly dangerous is how it affects power dynamics. When you can identify someone's weaknesses, You automatically hold the upper hand. You know who can be trusted and who cannot. You know who is acting out of fear, jealousy, insecurity, or ambition. You can foresee which relationships are genuine and which are driven by hidden motives. This protects you from manipulation because you see the intention behind the action before the action even unfolds. While others walk blindly into traps, you recognize them instantly and step around them calmly. This ability also influences how you respond to people. You don't waste time arguing with someone who is insecure and projecting. You don't get emotionally involved with someone who cannot manage their own emotions. You don't rely on someone who shows signs of envy or resentment. Because you can see weakness clearly, you avoid situations that drain your energy or compromise your stability. This kind of clarity gives you control, not over others, but over your own environment and choices. People may not always understand why they feel intimidated by you, but they feel it deeply. It's because you see what they hide. You understand what they fear. You recognize what they lack. And in a world where everyone is trying to protect their vulnerabilities, being around someone who can uncover them without effort is one of the most unsettling experiences they can have. Machiavelli knew that the person who understands human weakness is never at the mercy of it. You embody this principle effortlessly, making you someone others approach cautiously and respect instinctively. The sixth keynote speaks to a truth Machiavelli emphasized repeatedly. Loyalty, based on niceness, is fragile, but loyalty built on strength is unbreakable. People with intimidating and dangerous personalities do not win others over by being overly friendly, excessively agreeable, or desperate to please. They earn loyalty because their presence signals reliability, firmness, and an unwavering inner core. Others feel safer aligning with someone who is strong rather than someone who is simply kind. Kindness is appreciated, but strength is respected, and respect creates a deeper form of loyalty than charm ever could. When you carry yourself with this kind of strength, people recognize that you are not easily swayed by opinions, emotions, or social pressure. You make decisions based on logic and principle rather than convenience. This makes others gravitate toward you because they know exactly where you stand, and they know you won't betray your values for temporary comfort. Machiavelli believed that people follow those who appear resolute and self-assured. They trust leaders who demonstrate clarity and discipline. Niceness may attract people in the short term, but strength holds them in the long term because it provides direction, stability, and confidence. Your loyalty is also selective, which makes it more meaningful. You do not distribute your trust freely or shallowly. You do not pretend to like everyone. You evaluate a person's character, intentions, and consistency before allowing them into your circle. This selectiveness increases the value of your loyalty. When people finally earn it, they understand that it is not given casually but built through respect and proven behavior. And because you expect the same level of strength and reliability from others, your relationships, though few, are durable. People feel honored to be trusted by someone who trusts so rarely. This makes you intimidating because your loyalty cannot be bought with flattery, gifts, or emotional manipulation. People cannot influence you through guilt or sympathy. They cannot push you into decisions by appealing to your emotions. Your loyalty responds only to integrity, not sentiment. This emotional independence makes others nervous because it means you cannot be controlled the way they control most people. Machiavelli wrote that the most dangerous individuals are those who cannot be bribed or distracted. You embody this through your refusal to let kindness replace strength. People also recognize that when you are loyal, you are genuinely loyal. You stand by the people you respect. You protect those you consider yours. But this loyalty is paired with a standard. They must uphold the same values of strength, honesty, and respect. Anyone who violates these principles loses your loyalty instantly, and you do not hesitate when it comes to cutting ties. This ability to detach from those who betray your trust without emotional chaos further enhances your intimidating presence. People know that if they lose your respect, they lose access to your world completely and permanently. Your strength-based loyalty also influences how others behave around you. They act more honestly. They avoid deceit. They show their better selves, not because they fear punishment, but because they fear losing your respect. Your standards create a psychological structure around you. Even those who dislike you often treat you with more integrity than they would treat others, simply because they know you won't tolerate weakness of character. People follow you not because you are the nicest person in the room, but because you are the most reliable, the hardest to deceive, and the most emotionally controlled. They know you mean what you say, and you say what you mean. They know you don't pretend to be something you're not. This consistency builds a deeper form of loyalty, one based on trust and respect rather than comfort and affection. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. Fear mixed with respect creates a loyalty far more stable than love alone. When you embody strength, authenticity, and discipline, people align with you not because they want to feel good, but because they want to feel protected, guided, and grounded. And that is the essence of true, intimidating power, the kind that does not need to be demanded, because others offer it willingly. If you recognized yourself in these signs, understand this clearly. You did not become intimidating by accident. You became this way because life trained you to see deeper, think sharper, and stay stronger than the average person. You learned to control your emotions when others lost theirs. You learned to observe when others performed. You learned to stay silent when others exposed themselves. This is not weakness, this is power in its purest form. But remember, true power is not loud. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand attention. It simply exists, and others feel it. The world notices strength long before it respects it. Some will misunderstand you, some will fear you, and some will admire you. But almost no one will forget you. Carry your presence with discipline. Use your insight with intention, and never dilute your strength to make others comfortable. In a world full of noise, your silence is a weapon. In a world full of masks, your clarity is rare. And in a world full of fragile egos, your unshakable mind is what makes you truly dangerous.